Hello and welcome to Saints Live. I'm Steve Forbes.
And I'm Kenzie Benali.
Well, in what could be a definitive day in Southampton's Premier League tenure, the Saints take on Fulham here at St Mary's, where only 3 points would stave off the drop. Now, joining us to discuss everything pre-match, we have former Saints captain Dean Hammond and Premier League reporter Paul Belverstone.
Lovely to see you both, as always. I mean, there's no getting around the situation, is there really, Dean? If we fail to win today, we will be relegated. So given the circumstances, if you were able to speak to the team, what would your message be to them?
It's a difficult question, Kenzie, because I think initially, after the defeat against Nottingham Forest, we're all deflated, we're all disappointed and frustrated with the situation. But I think it's just keeping the season alive. You have to try and keep the season alive. Try and replicate that attacking performance we put on against Nottingham Forest. We were a real threat. We created lots of chances. We were very good in possession. We looked like a really good team going forward. Defensively, we need to be better. But just put a performance on. I think that's all you can concentrate on. Try and entertain the home fans. Try and put on a collective team performance. Play for each other. Play for the badge. Play for your pride, and just concentrate on this game, because you can't affect anything else at all. Try and win this game against a really good Fulham team, are coming off a really good result. But also the reality of the fact that this could be, and I don't think it will be, but it could be for some of these players in the team, the last chance they may get to play in the Premier League, the last chance they may get to play for Southampton, the last chance they may get to play at St Mary's. So you have to understand that and be aware of that, and take that into consideration in your performance, individually and collectively. But it's just playing with that energy. It's easy to say, don't play with that fear and go out and play and be free and express yourself. But you have to try and find a way of doing that. We did that against Nottingham Forest in attacking areas. We looked like a really good team and they were entertaining to watch. Obviously, at the other end, we conceded too many goals and too many opportunities, too many easy opportunities. So you need to be disciplined at the back, but stick together as a team, play for the 90 minutes, not just for little spells and little moments, and put a performance on for yourselves and the home fans today. That's what I'd be trying to get through to the players. Forget the situation, forget what could happen, play the game, try and win the game, and you never know.
Well, one player who won't feature for Southampton again this season is Bella-Kotchap. He's out with injury. Belvers, how would you assess his first year in the Premier League?
Largely very impressed. I think Stevie arrived as a 20-year-old. You're never going to get fully consistent 8 out of 10 each week performances from a 20-year-old. Otherwise, realistically, they're going to be playing for Man City, Barcelona, and so on. But he very, very good. This has been a concern that he has had so many injuries. I think that's partly down to the number of games, the quantity and the intensity of those games as well. And, that's why I think a lot of these young players have struggled for fitness this season. But he came in, no one expected him at the start of the season to go straight into the starting 11. I think he was on the bench, unused sub up at Tottenham when Ralph Hasenhüttl was using a back three. And then suddenly one of those, Jan Valery, left very quickly and he was straight in for the second game against Leeds. And he was very impressive for that first half of the season. Especially, he reads the game especially well. He's top of the Saints table for interceptions because he does read the game and he can smell danger and he can nip in front of an attacker and pinch the ball, or he can cut out a pass. And if it doesn't work and if someone skips past him or whatever, he has got this explosive pace, so he can charge back and snuff out the danger that way. But yeah, seeing him go off injured in the first half of 4 matches this season is a real concern. His shoulder perhaps has a weakness because that's been an issue 2-3 times. It nearly stopped him going to the World Cup. The fact that he was picked for Germany going to the World Cup, in place of Mats Hummels, who's a fantastic player, that says an awful lot about the type of player he is. And, last week against Forest, for example, wasn't his greatest performance and he went off injured again. But largely, I think his arrival, his season has been a big success and a big tick for the recruitment department, because £10 million looks a steal to me.
Let's talk team news now then, shall we? The official lineup being announced in just under 15 minutes time. So as well as knowing that our male Bella-Kotchap will be out for the remainder of the season, we also know that so too will Roman Perro. Mohamed Salisu and Juan Larios are both out too, and Shay Adams is a doubt. So Dean, let's come to you with your thoughts on our male then. Obviously, as we've mentioned, he will be missing today. So who comes in to replace him, and what other changes, if any, do you expect to see today?
Well, I think Shaletta Shah will probably come in for Bella-Kotchap. I think that's the most obvious change or replacement, in my opinion, because I would play Lianco at right back. I would bring Lianco into the team. I think anytime he's been called upon, he's been excellent and performed really, really well. I think Nathan Niles has struggled against Nottingham Forest. If I'm totally honest, he had a tough evening, and I'd probably just bring him out of the team today. But apart from that, I'm very hopeful that Shay Adams will be fit and be able to play, because he's so important for this Southampton team. I think any chances we create, any moments we have, he tends to be involved in them. Not always the player that gets the goals, not always the player with the assists, but whether it's him holding the ball up, whether him bringing other players into play, whether him being physical with the defence of the opposition to cause problems, whether he does get chances. We know he's not as clinical as we want him to be, but such an important player for Southampton. And Southampton are a different team when he plays it, in my opinion, especially with the manager wanting to play 4-2-3-1. I think that works because he can play that lone role up front, which allows Alcaraz to play that deeper role and be really effective from there. Stuart Armstrong to kind of roam and float. I would keep him in the team. He's been brilliant. Theo Walcott, I think, has been great since the back end of the season. So if Shay Adams is not fit, Sulemana, I think, will come into that area, and then it will be a rotation of the four up front. No one will be pigeonholed and playing in a certain position. There'll be rotation and movement, which has worked at times, but not been as consistent as I think we'd want it. So hopeful that Shay plays, but not too many changes. I think Shaletta Shah will come in at centre-half. I would play Lianco at right back and Cole Walker-Peters at left back, and that would be my team, and continue the theme from the Forest performance, attacking-wise. Defensively, just need to be better individually. Cut out those mistakes, take a little bit more responsibility, and they will have enough to win this game today.
This is arguably the most important selection for Ruben Sellés. Belvers, how do you expect Saints to line up?
Very similar to Dean, very similar to last week, because it was such an improvement, even though ultimately the result didn't go Southampton's way. I think there was so much more attacking intent. They looked so much more dangerous and created the chances and so on. I suspect he'll probably keep Maitland-Niles and Walker-Peters as his fullbacks. It'll be interesting to see which flank they play on, because I think that took everyone by surprise last week, seeing Maitland-Niles on the left. And there has been that element, hasn't there, of Ruben Roulette. He's sprung many, many surprises over the past few weeks, with the likes of Joe Aribo coming in and Alex McCarthy replacing Gavin Bazunu. I think most of the team picks itself today. You know, those three in midfield, Alcaraz, Lavia, Ward-Prowse, they're very settled. Walcott one side. I think Stuart Armstrong has shown a lot of flashes of what he can do. We're just looking for perhaps a more sustained period today. If Shay Adams is fit, and we all hope he is, of course, then he starts, absolutely, no doubt about that. If he isn't fit, I'd like to see a striker being played, a Sekou Mara. I think still, again, he's very young. He has, again, shown some flashes of brilliance at times this season. He's also shown that he can be a real pest for defenders. If you think of the impact he had coming on against Tottenham, the goal he scored against Manchester City, there have been other times when he's been pretty much on his own up front, trying to press on his own almost, which isn't a successful method. You're not gonna win any games like that. But he has shown a great willingness to put himself about, great energy, cause problems. And I think with this more attacking, dynamic approach that we saw against Forest, having him in there could bear fruit again today.
More time now to hear from Ruben Sellés. Here's what the Saints boss had to say in his press conference yesterday.
No. For us, it's our job and our privilege to fight until the very last minute, and that's why we are going to do it. We know it's very close there, but we still have our chances. It's not mathematically there, so we are going to go for it. And again, it's our job and our privilege to be in this position, playing for Southampton and working in the Premier League, and then we are going to be there until the very last second.
How have you found motivating the players?
Yeah, it's getting harder, of course, because the situation is not helping, and has been a tough week for us. We put all we have in against Nottingham Forest, and we didn't get the result that we want. And always when you get hit like that, it's difficult to get the day after to work and then to be ultra or super motivated. But I think we are in a good place, and I think we are in a place that we can go tomorrow, compete, and try to win the game.
Well, Dean, looking back on Monday's defeat, Nottingham Forest had 9 shots in the game, which is actually the fewest by an opponent since we faced Fulham on New Year's Eve. The trouble, of course, is that 4 of them found the back of the net. Would you say that the first 2 certainly felt avoidable?
Definitely, Kenzie. We spoke about it in length after the game. I mean, the first one for me, it's one long pass. It's an excellent pullback, and it's a really, really good finish. Where actually, on reflection, I think Alex McCarthy could do a little bit better. I think he's just caught off guard, and it comes in a little bit quick, but it is quite straight, and he does get a hand to it. But it's before that. It's allowing Nottingham Forest to take a quick free kick while we're out of position. Maitland-Niles, I think he can get a little bit closer. And then Bella-Kotchap, his recovery run needs to be quicker, needs to come across. He needs to be aware that potentially that ball could be pulled back first time. He needs to cover the ground a little bit quicker. He's just jogging. He's kind of labouring back. And I think I mentioned that after the show. There was moments of that. There's not that urgency to defend as quickly as possible. Here, Alcaraz just needs to be a little bit better on the ball. But also, in his defence, he's not getting any help. Alex McCarthy's not giving him an angle to play back to him. Bella-Kotchap's not recovering into position so he can actually have for someone to pass to. He needs to just clear his lines there. There's a few ricochets. There's a couple of moments where Southampton potentially could have cleared it. But again, it's just that intensity to really defend your goal, to really stop the ball going in the goal. That would be my disappointment, really. Look at the Southampton players there. We've got 5-6 players. No one's getting to the ball. No one's with that intensity. No one's really using their body to try and defend, to try and put the Nottingham players off. They just want it a little bit more in those moments. And the disappointment is, Kenzie, is that there's 3 minutes between the goals. And that has been a problem this year, really, reacting to that disappointment. Because if you're 1-0 down, that can happen. It can happen in any game. But there was such a long period of the game left that Southampton are still in it at 1-0. At 2-0, it becomes a little bit more difficult. And Southampton before that had lots of possession, had lots of opportunities to maybe score, to go in front. So they know as a team, we can cause Nottingham Forest problems, we can score goals, we can get back into this game. So almost being aware of those situations, it's that game management, that experience within the moment to go, right, okay, let's just stay solid for a couple of minutes. Let's weather this storm because the fans are up. It was noisy in the stadium. And Nottingham Forest were on the front foot there, and they were pressing. They got the second goal, and their tails were up. So that inexperience has caused Southampton's problems all season. So yes, I do think they could have been avoided. They really could. But at source, the end result, they're 2 very good finishes. But I think at moments before that, it could have been stopped and the ball could have been cleared.
Okay, well, the team news is coming up very shortly. Paul, could you quickly talk to us about Forest's other 2 goals, especially the third from the penalty spot? Any question marks over that decision?
No, Dean mentioned that Ainsley Maitland-Niles struggled in this game. He was unlucky here. I think it's a decent first touch. But then you look at his reaction when the referee points to the spot. You know, there is an acceptance there. He knows that he's basically very nearly taken Brennan Johnson's foot off. I do wonder, while I think the first touch was pretty good, he then slips. But look how quickly Brennan Johnson reacts. And that's what has taken Ainsley Maitland-Niles by surprise. I think he could have been better aware of what was around him. You know, could he not have seen Brennan Johnson around his peripheral vision? But, you know, this sort of decision, I can't see any reason why any referee, any VAR would overturn that. Morgan Gibbs-White then sticks the penalty down the middle. Now, I paused this early to see if Alex McCarthy went early. Actually, if he'd stayed, he was pretty much still straight upright when Gibbs White struck the ball. So a bit unfortunate there maybe as well. And then, yeah, the fourth, not an example of defending that Southampton are going to want to put in their playbook, unfortunately.
Great stuff, Paul. Sorry to interrupt you, but the team news is in now. We'll come back to you very shortly. There are 2 changes to the Southampton lineup today. Paul Onuachu has come in for Shay Adams, who was a doubt before the match, and also Bella-Kotchap being injured for the rest of the season means Lianco takes his place. So here's the Southampton lineup in full. In goal is Alex McCarthy, Carl Walker-Peters, Jan Bednarek, Lianco, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Romeo Lavia, our captain James Ward-Prowse, Stuart Armstrong, Theo Walcott, Charlie Alcaraz and Paul Onuachu. Also on the subs bench we have Gavin Bazunu, James Bree, Duje Shaletta Sarr, Moy Elianusi, Musa Gineppo, Joe Aribo, Kamaldeen Sulemana, Adam Armstrong and Sekou Mara. Paul, we'll come back to you first. You said you wanted to see Sekou get a chance. Ruben's decided to go with Paul Onuachu. What do you make of the lineup Ruben selected?
It's one of those that the opposition won't be expecting it, so you never know. If they've been working on that all week, putting in good crosses to Paul Onuachu, he has shown us in the past that he can be very dangerous. When he came on against Chelsea, I think it was, he looked good. Too often he comes on and they don't seem to be playing to his strengths. Clearly, this has been a plan all week that if Shay Adams isn't fit, Tall Paul is the man. And it's a big loss for Fulham that Tim Ream isn't playing at the moment. He has been exceptional for them this season in the middle of their defence, and he's very good in the air. So maybe again that could help hugely. And yeah, the other change is, not a huge surprise. Lianco has been pretty reliable when he's come on, and it was a toss of a coin for me between him and Shaletta Sarr. As I said earlier, I think it'll be very interesting to see which side Walker-Peters and Maitland-Niles play on, if they have continued the experiment, that the tactics that they showed against Forest last week with Maitland-Niles on the left and then moving into midfield. But yeah, we shall see. A lot, like we said, a lot of that 11 picks itself at the moment, and it's all down to the intent, the plan, how they approach this game. And I think we'll learn an awful lot in the first 10-15 minutes.
What do you make of it, Dean? No surprises, really?
Not really, Steve. I think Lianco deserves his start in the team. It looks like it will be a centre half. I would have preferred him at right back. I think he's actually a better right back than centre half, even though he's naturally a central defender. I think he's done very, very well at right back, but no problem with that at all. Onuachu coming in, like Paul's just mentioned, I think he's actually better when he starts games. His performance at Chelsea was very, very good. When he comes on as a substitute, he doesn't seem to make an impact, doesn't seem to really affect the game. So he's better from the start. So I think let's hope that works today. But he needs crosses into the box. He needs service. He's not really had too many opportunities, too many crosses to attack when he's played. And I think that's his best attribute, obviously, because of his height and his strength in the air. But that's not really how Southampton have played. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a different approach today, if we're a little bit more direct, if we try to get the ball in the box a little bit earlier. But he will need support. He can't be isolated. He needs Alcaraz making those runs off him, Stuart Armstrong coming centrally to play with him, Theo Walcott giving the width to get crosses in, the fullbacks getting in attacking areas to be able to combine to then get crosses in. So it's an attacking team and continuing the theme against Nottingham Forest. So no surprises, but yeah, and a team that can cause Fulham problems, and there's goals in the team, which is important because you need to score goals to win games, and Fulham score themselves. So I don't think it'll be a 1-0 today.
Dean, if we can, I just want to circle back to revisit that Nottingham Forest game. We spoke about the defending, of course, but actually Southampton had their highest expected goals figure of the season against Forest, 3.1 goals. They certainly caused them some problems and showed some real attacking intent. Is that the same kind of approach you're hoping to see from them today?
I hope so, Kenzie, because it was really, really good to watch. From the first whistle, the possession that Southampton had was really impressive. The players looked comfortable on the ball. It flowed really, really well. The movement off the ball was excellent. The runs in behind from Shay Adams, from Stuart Armstrong, from Theo Walcott was excellent. This chance for Shay there, I think a confident Shay Adams and a fit Shay Adams takes that first time and just strikes it and believes in himself there. A bit like Alcaraz does there, just doesn't quite get the connection. But it was the combination. We see from the goal here, pressing the ball, winning it back. Shay Adams gets possession. Is his timing of the pass, the running of Stuart Armstrong, his timing of the pass, and then the composure of Alcaraz to take that touch and to slot it into the goal, which is a brilliant counter-attacking goal and what I believe Southampton would have worked on all week. So that's what Southampton can do when they get in those moments. They just haven't been clinical enough, or it hasn't quite fallen to the right player. Lianco being aggressive from a set piece, because we have the ability of James Ward-Prowse's delivery. He can put it wherever you want. Lianco winning that first contact, winning that header was great to see. Edozie came on. He looked positive. We haven't seen too much of him lately, but he was willing to take his player on and get in one-on-one situations. But it was the confidence of the players. Southampton in attacking areas didn't look like they were a team at bottom of the league. They didn't look short of confidence. They didn't look short of belief. There was lots of ideas. It was great to watch. So if we can play like that today, I don't think we've played too often like that at home. It'd be great to see it at St Mary's. It would be great to see lots of balls in the box, lots of runs in behind, lots of shots at goal, lots of opportunities to get the crowd off their seats, to entertain them. That would be great to see. So need to continue that, need to be a little bit more disciplined defensively and a little bit more cautious at times. But if Southampton are going to win today, they're going to have to take some risks and take some chances. So I hope they continue that.
Yeah, we certainly do. Well, Belvers, we're going to cast our minds back now to December. Saints, of course, lost 2-1 at Craven Cottage, but it really was one of those tight matches that could have easily gone the other way.
And probably should have gone Southampton's way, to be honest. Southampton dominated the game, created by far the better chances, more chances, I'm sure. This one, great ball over the top from Moy Elyounoussi, and Shay Adams doesn't do a great deal wrong here. Bernd Leno comes out very well, smothers the shot. You know, with hindsight, perhaps having been onside, gone through, could he have taken it round the keeper? You know, you've seen those shots go in the top corner many times. This baffles me. There are 10 players from Southampton in the 6-yard box. None of them have spotted the danger of Pereira on the edge, and it's unlucky because it's hit Ward-Prowse and gone in, and they're 1-0 up without having a shot on target. It was very kind of them, I thought, to put Harrison Reed on the edge of the wall. He's surely the shortest player there, although I saw today he's listed as 5'11". That can't be true. But, you know, Ward-Prowse, wonderful free kick, the longest knee slide I've ever seen, and they're back in it. And, you know, he's come back after the own goal. But then 3 minutes from the end, this is a dreadful goal to concede. Free header at the near post, 2 players lining up at the back post. You know, at this stage, it felt like Southampton were perhaps settling for a point because this was Fulham's best period of the match when Southampton should have won it. And in another season, this might have been a bit of comedy, really. But Gavin Bazunu comes out, actually punches his teammate Lianco in the face, but Dan James goes down. Lianco reacts like he's not felt a thing. And I think this is an underrated save. I think that's going right in the corner, but Bazunu goes right across, firm hand, but ultimately the save didn't really matter. It was very harsh on Southampton. It was a real sort of sucker punch to concede so late as well. But as we've seen throughout the season, preventable goals. And, you know, that was the biggest disappointment. There aren't too many games when Southampton score more than once in a match, so can't be giving away cheap goals. And that's a big lesson today. Be tight at the back and ruthless up front. Easy.
Yeah, most definitely. And we can't blame Harrison Reed either. I list myself as 5'9", Paul. Dean, Fulham have won 14 matches this season. If they win today, that'll be their most wins in a Premier League season. How would you rate their campaign so far?
Brilliant. I think they've surprised us all, if I'm honest. Their last Premier League campaign under Scott Parker didn't obviously go as planned, ended in relegation. But since they've been promoted, they've just continued winning games. Like you say, if they win today, it's 15 Premier League games. I was looking at the table and their stats, actually. They've not drawn many games this season. They've lost quite a few games, I think 15 defeats as well. But having 15 wins has been massive for them. And I think it started from their recruitment in the summer, really. Bringing Leno in as a goalkeeper, I mean, a fantastic signing. The 2 fullbacks are very, very good players in Tete and Robinson. the two midfield players in Harrison Reed. We all know what a good player he is and what a consistent player he is at this level. Polina, I think, has been brilliant for them. And Mitrovic up front, I know he's missing lately, but he's been able to score goals at this level consistently for the first time. And he's a real threat. And Premier League defenders would not like playing against him because he's rough, he's physical, he's really good in the air. He's actually got better technique than we actually give him credit for. He's probably horrible to play against. So they've been really, really good. They've been excellent. The surprise team of the season. And if you'd say they'd finished in the top 10, they would have been surprised themselves. So been an excellent season. They've drifted off of late, but they had a really good performance and result against Leicester last week, scoring 5 goals. And really cruising in that game was a brilliant performance. So they're going to be a tough test today. But if they finish in the top 10, they'll be one of the best teams this year in the Premier League.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Belvers, as Dean's just mentioned, Fulham have been the surprise package this season, sitting 10th in the Premier League, coming into this one off the back of that 5-3 win over Leicester. Today, of course, they welcome back Mitrovic as well, who starts on the bench. How do you assess them at the moment?
I think I'd echo everything Dean said. I think they've been harshly criticised recently for being the on the beach team, if you like. As soon as their dreams of Europe evaporated, which were always slightly fanciful, let's be honest, results have been inconsistent. But then they scored 5 against Leicester, who absolutely had to win on Monday. So they have been enormously impressive. I remember I went to Marco Silva's first press conference this season, and I asked him, if I could offer you 17th place now, would you take it? And he sort of smirked and said, we're aiming a bit higher than that. And I thought, well, you have to say that, don't you? You have to look ambitious. For them to finish in the top 10 and above their West London rivals, Chelsea, it's a magnificent achievement. And they have got some wonderful players. When you think of how they've approached Premier League football in the past, when Claudio Ranieri was in charge a couple of years ago and they signed an entire new squad pretty much, they just improved the spine with those players that Dean mentioned. The goalkeeper, Issa Diop, I think, is better than a number of the centre backs that West Ham kept on or tried to replace him with. Paulinho and Pereira have been immense. And the thing about Marco Silva, who I wasn't utterly convinced by in his time at Watford and Everton, but unlike Scott Parker, for whatever reasons, he's decided Mitrovic can absolutely score goals at this level, has backed his man, has given him such confidence as well, has played him even when he's not been entirely fit at times. I've seen him pretty much limping around games, not involved, and then suddenly just in a split second explodes to win a penalty, win a chance, score a goal, anything like that. And when Scott Parker was in charge there, they weren't putting crosses into the box. And that's what Mitrovic thrives on, really going up physically against a defender. He scored 20 goals for club and country this season. Only 2 of them have been in 2023. So he was absolutely crucial to getting Fulham into the position where they haven't had to worry about relegation all season. They've been magnificent, very, very impressive. And, I sort of teased Harrison Reed earlier. Ex-Southampton player, got a lot of time for him, really like him, so pleased to see him doing well. But I very much hope the 13th of the month is unlucky for them today.
Yeah, as do we. Right, well, it's time to get your final thoughts, gentlemen, and those score predictions. Dean, we'll come to you first. How do you see today going?
Well, I went for a high-scoring game against Nottingham Forest, and I expected goals in that one, and I expect goals today as well. I think if you look at Fulham, they do concede goals at times, but they're a team that like to express themselves. They, like Paul said, they've had a brilliant season, nothing to lose, coming off a great result. So they'll be looking to entertain and score goals. And Southampton know they need to win the game. So I'm going to go for a 3-2 Southampton again and hopefully I'll get it right today.
Okie dokie. What about yourself, Belvers?
I've seen Fulham a few times this season. They have a couple of different ways to play. I've seen them beat Brighton twice with around 35% possession. I saw them thrash Aston Villa in Steven Gerrard's last game with over 60% possession. So it'll be very interesting to see how they approach this one today. It does look bleak for Southampton in the overall picture, but ultimately, I believe in miracles. There is still a chance. When watch football and talk nonsense for a living. People pay me to do those two things. So why wouldn't I believe in miracles? I think 2-1 Southampton today and still alive.
Oh, Belvers, you never fail to make us smile. On that note, thanks ever so much for your company. As always great to have you with us on the show. Now, kickoff is fast approaching here at St Mary's Stadium. And remember, you can follow along with all of the action over at southamptonfc.com with a live commentary with Adam Blackmore and Joe Tesson. Enjoy the game.